Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from South Hadley, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Kuhn. Now, he offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now, you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so today he'll be educating us on the Avery Field Park. So tell us about the history of Avery Field.
All right, it's named after Nathan Prentice Avery, who was one of the mayors of Holyoke. And he was also a very strong advocate for parks and playgrounds around Holyoke. The mayor before him also was Arthur Chapin. And he was also, on a Massachusetts level, an advocate for a playground in every city and town in Massachusetts. And they started a playground movement around Massachusetts. And this Avery Field might be the first playground ever in Massachusetts that was city-owned and city-funded. And that's wonderful, and the reason why is because they wanted to get places where young children could leave their tenement homes and find a place where they could enjoy nature, green space, recreational fields. And think of it this way, a lot of immigrants in their country lived on farms, whether they were Irish, Polish, or from Quebec. And they were used to living out in nature, with trees and animals, plants, and to put them in a city where there's just buildings, roads, institutions, is kind of depriving them from what they were used to. And you had to get nature back into the city. There were parks around, but a playground is a place where a child could enjoy themselves. So the difference is the playground is kind of a children's park. And it will have equipment where they can enjoy our fields, diamonds, so forth, that they can enjoy themselves. And this was a great place. Avery Field developed. It was in the beginning called Hamden Playground because it was on Hamden Street. And it was an extension of what they should have had for themselves for a very long time. And Avery Field has stayed the same pretty much since the birth of the field itself. The reason why is there's always been a stress that you should have this for the children, and it's always been its own city block or in between the city blocks, and it's worked out. And even when it has changed, it's changed probably for the better. It's changed what society has changed.
So what are some of the modern amenities in this park that people might enjoy?
Okay, if you go there now, you'll find a softball field, but it's always had that, of course. It has lots of trees, especially maple trees around it, and those are great for shade. They're positioned so that they're in the eastern edge and western edge, so they block the sun at different times of day. And you also have a basketball court on one side. Most especially, you have a playground set towards the southern portion, and that one has always changed with the times as you need more safety features in a playground set. They've changed it, and of course, of anything, that's the structure that wear out the quickest. They don't have an outdoor restroom anymore, but they used to. They might have an ice rink. I don't think they do anymore because you now have an indoor ice rink in Holyoke. But they used to have many ice rinks. They'd have one for the small kids, one for the bigger kids. And this has really been a great place for Holyoke.
So quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, @yahoo.com. And they are perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family. or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. And they are also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, how does this field fit into this neighborhood?
Okay, it fits in very nicely. This Oak Street neighborhood is a very pleasant neighborhood. Immediately to the north of Avery Field is Mitchell Field, and that's a place where a very big baseball diamond are major league size, of course. And it's also a place with a lot of green space. It's more for adults, and this, of course, Avery Playground is for younger children. And if you go out to the southern edge, you're on Oak Street, and that's a very residential neighborhood. As you go further and further up, you get more residential. In fact, you can find on this street every level of socioeconomic level, lower class, middle class, and upper class as you go along Main Street, Oak Street. It's a very wonderful system. And it's also fits very well into the neighborhood because you know there's a distinction between the two. There's a nice wrought iron gate and a brownstone gate head on both ends of Avery Field, and that just makes it distinct compared to the surrounding areas.
So what should this field evolve into?
Okay, this field of any should stay the same. It's perfectly leveled. It's very cozy place. It's, like I said, the possibility this is the first playground ever in Massachusetts that was publicly sponsored. And for that reason, it's very historic. It came around the year, I think it was 1909, the idea came around, and they were finished 1910. But you can check that up on my webpage. You can read all the text, and you're going to see a lot of pictures, old-time pictures of Avery Field. And I put it together as part of the Oak Street tour because I believe every institution or playground has a neighborhood around it that it blends into, and this one blends in very well. Now, I think that it should stay, but it should also modernize as it goes along, so the playgrounds that need to be changed in 20 years, and whatever is in vogue at that point, change that. But the softball field should stay. If any sports come into fashion along the way, maybe you should get one of those. So, sure, change a little with time, but the overall sense of it should remain. Now, one thing I want to change is that it's surrounded on the east and west by those maple trees. They were planted about now 112 years ago. Well, a couple of them are dying. The rest are fine. They usually have an average life of 200 years, but a couple of them have died off. And so I think those should be replanted, and you should have them spring back to life because that's kind of the character of the park itself with those trees. So thank you for listening to this podcast.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can also tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more at his website. Again, that's holyokecanaltour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, @yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in.